Have you ever wondered why everything in the universe is in constant, swirling motion, and yet, as we lie awake in the dark, we feel completely and absolutely still? We stand on a small rocky world, breathing the cool night air, experiencing a profound sense of motionless peace, completely unaware of the staggering velocities carrying us through the dark. This is not merely a trick of perception. It is the ultimate paradox of our existence, a beautiful contradiction that connects our quiet, everyday lives to the unimaginable scale of the cosmos. When we close our eyes and seek comfort in the silence of the night, we are actually participating in an ancient, infinite dance of matter and energy. The universe does not shout its secrets. Instead, it whispers them across the vast gulfs of space, inviting us on a gentle journey of understanding. The mystery of the cosmos is not meant to frighten us, but to wrap us in a comforting blanket of awe, reminding us that we are part of a structure so immense that our minds can only begin to brush against its edges. If you are seeking a moment of peace, allow yourself to drift with me into the deep, dark ocean of space. Let us explore the true scale of our cosmic home and discover why the endless stretch of time is a deeply beautiful transformation into eternal stillness. Let us begin our journey by looking closely at our own immediate neighborhood, the magnificent swirling structure we call the Milky Way. Our home is what astronomers gently describe as a barred spiral galaxy, a delicate, glowing pinwheel featuring beautiful curving arms made of ancient stars, cool gas, and cosmic dust. These luminous arms swirl gracefully around a central, glowing bulge, holding within its heart an enormous, hidden black hole. If you could somehow step outside our galaxy and look back, you would see a structure stretching across roughly 100,000 light-years from one edge to the opposite side. To truly grasp this number, we must slow down and consider what it means. Light, the absolute fastest messenger in our universe, moves at a speed that defies our daily comprehension. Yet, if you could somehow ride a beam of light across the vastness of our galaxy, it would still take you 100,000 years to complete that single journey. That duration is longer than modern human beings have walked upon the earth. It is an expanse of time far older than the very first moments our ancestors learned to paint their dreams onto the walls of ancient caves. It outlasts every civilization that has ever risen and gently faded away into the sands of time combined. And yet, this overwhelming expanse is merely the width of our own little, quiet corner of the cosmos. Within this sweeping spiral of light and gravity, the Milky Way provides a comforting home to somewhere between 200 billion and 400 billion individual stars. Each one of these glowing embers is a world unto itself. Many of those stars likely host their own families of planets orbiting peacefully in the dark, with ancient comets streaking through the absolute cold of space. Our Sun, the warm star that gives us life, is just one single point of light among those hundreds of billions, resting quietly about 26,000 light-years away from the galactic center. We live in a peaceful, quiet neighborhood, known to astronomers as the Orion Arm. Together with its family of planets, our Sun journeys around the deep center of the galaxy at a breathtaking speed of about 500,000 miles per hour. Even moving at that tremendous, dizzying velocity, the sheer scale of our galaxy means it takes our solar system roughly 250 million years to complete just one single sweeping lap around the galactic core. Astronomers sometimes call this majestic rotation a cosmic year or a galactic year. In the entire era during which great dinosaurs roamed the surface of the Earth, our solar system did not even manage to complete one full orbit. The space stretching between the stars in the Milky Way is almost unimaginably empty, filled with a deep and profound silence. Our nearest stellar neighbor, a small, gentle red dwarf star named Proxima Centauri, sits about 4.24 light-years away. That distance is so breathtakingly vast that if you could magically shrink our sun down to the size of a single, tiny grain of sand, Proxima Centauri would simply be another solitary grain of sand resting quietly about 4 miles away. The immense space lingering between those two tiny grains would be essentially a complete void, containing just the faintest ghostly whiff of gas and dust. This gentle emptiness can be difficult to wrap your mind around. We live our daily lives on a crowded, vibrant planet, surrounded by billions of other breathing souls. We are accustomed to the comforting feeling of a world that is full, but the moment we mentally step outside the familiar embrace of our solar system, profound emptiness becomes the universal rule. The glowing stars are separated by such vast, silent gulfs that the chance of any two of them colliding by accident is essentially zero. Entire galaxies can gently pass completely through one another without any of their individual stars actually hitting each other. Yet somehow, within all that infinite emptiness, there is enough scattered material out there to form hundreds of billions of stars in our galaxy alone. When you step outside on a clear evening and look up at the night sky from a deeply dark location, you might notice a hazy, delicate band of light stretching across the heavens. That soft, silvery glow is actually the beautiful, combined light of billions upon billions of distant stars residing within our own galaxy. Ancient people, looking up in quiet wonder, thought it looked exactly like spilled milk flowing across the dark heavens, which is beautifully where the name Milky Way originates. For the vast majority of human history, as we gazed into the night, we assumed that this band of light was absolutely everything. We humbly thought our galaxy was the entire infinite universe. Different cultures around our world wove different, beautiful explanations for that celestial band of light. The ancient Greeks whispered stories of milk spilled from the goddess Hera's breast. The ancient Romans reverently called it the Milky Road. In ancient India, it was beautifully seen as the sacred, quiet path that souls take on their gentle journey to the peaceful afterlife. People throughout history have looked up at that very same band of light, asking the same universal questions about what it might truly be. The most profound shift in our understanding of the cosmos, a revelation that forever changed our relationship with the infinite, happened in the 1920s. An astronomer named Edwin Hubble, working in the quiet solitude of the night at the Mount Wilson Observatory in California, was gazing through what was then the largest telescope in the entire world, featuring a mirror 100 inches across. He was observing a specific class of gently pulsing stars called Cepheid variables, located in a distant smudge of light called the Andromeda Nebula. By carefully measuring their apparent brightness and the gentle rate of their pulsation, Hubble was able to calculate exactly how far away they were resting in the deep dark. The scientific result was absolutely shocking. The Andromeda Nebula was not merely a small cloud of gas floating within our own galaxy, it was resting roughly 1 million light-years away, positioned incredibly far beyond the extreme outer edges of the Milky Way. It was an entirely separate, majestic galaxy, an isolated island universe of glowing stars existing in its own beautiful right. In that single, quiet moment of realization, human understanding was forever transformed. Our massive galaxy was not the whole cosmos. It was merely just one single galaxy existing among many others. We know today that Hubble's original distance estimate was actually off by about a factor of 2. The Andromeda Galaxy is, in reality, about 2 million light-years away from us. The universe was vastly, incomprehensibly larger than anyone had ever imagined, filled to the brim with countless other galaxies, each one holding its own collection of billions of stars. Today, as we peer even deeper into the silence of the cosmos, we estimate that there are an astonishing 2 trillion galaxies resting in the observable universe. That is a 2 followed by 12 zeros. Each of those distant galaxies contains billions, or even trillions, of its own stars. But not all galaxies are created equal. Some are beautifully tiny dwarf galaxies, while others sit quietly at the very extreme end of the cosmic scale. There are true, ancient monsters of the universe, galaxies so enormous that they make our massive Milky Way look like nothing more than a tiny, insignificant speck of dust, floating peacefully in an endless void. Have you ever looked at a map of a sprawling city at night, tracing the glowing veins of light that connect countless neighborhoods, and wondered how all those solitary lives somehow bind together into one massive, living organism? Just as human beings gather into quiet villages, bustling towns, and massive metropolises to find warmth and connection, galaxies also refuse to drift through the deep, dark ocean of space in absolute, terrifying isolation. They form their own ancient, luminous communities, held tightly together by the gentle, invisible embrace of gravity. To truly understand the most awe-inspiring monsters of the cosmos, we must first understand how the universe organizes its glowing celestial cities. When we peer into the vast silence of the night sky, we see that galaxies come in many beautiful, contrasting shapes and sizes, painting a masterpiece across the canvas of the void. The most common companions in our nearby universe are the elegant spiral galaxies, much like our very own magnificent Milky Way, possessing delicate, pinwheel arms and flat, rotating disks. These luminous structures are active nurseries, incredibly dynamic places where fresh, glowing stars are constantly being born in the deep, cold gas of the sweeping spiral arms. Yet, the infinite universe also holds elliptical galaxies, which look incredibly different to our curious eyes. They range from nearly perfect glowing spheres to highly elongated oval shapes, burning with the soft, reddish hue of ancient, dying stars. In these older, peaceful communities, the birth of new stars has largely ceased entirely, their primordial gas supplies having been long exhausted by the relentless march of time. It is within this quiet, aging population of elliptical galaxies that the true giants of the cosmos hide in plain sight, quietly holding on to mysteries that stagger the human mind. Galaxies gather together in a magnificent, hierarchical structure that builds from the bottom up, forming a staggering cosmic web that stretches out to the very edge of the observable universe. Our own Milky Way, the gentle home we know so well, belongs to a relatively small, quiet neighborhood known as the local group, which contains about 80 known galaxies, including our majestic neighbor, the Andromeda Galaxy, and several dozen smaller, faint dwarf galaxies. But out in the deep, infinite dark, there are much larger structures known as galaxy clusters. These massive, gravitationally bound communities contain hundreds to thousands of individual galaxies, all swirling together in a delicate, cosmic dance that takes billions of years to unfold. And beyond even those grand clusters lie the superclusters, vast, incomprehensible assemblages of galaxy clusters stretching across hundreds of millions of light years through the absolute freezing void. It is within one of these massive, ancient clusters that we find a galaxy so enormous, so fundamentally terrifying in its sheer scale, that it challenges the very limits of human imagination. Its name, assigned by scientists over a century ago, is simply IC 1101. Do not let the dull, catalogued name fool your sense of wonder. There is absolutely nothing boring about this cosmic giant. Sitting quietly at the dead center of a massive collection of galaxies called the Abel 2029 cluster, located far away in the direction of the constellation Virgo, this monster reigns absolutely supreme. When astronomers point their incredibly powerful telescopes toward this specific region of the dark sky, they observe a massive, swirling collection of galaxies, all bound tightly together by gravity, dancing gracefully around a common, invisible center of mass. And right in the quiet, beating heart of that cluster, dominating the infinite silence around it like a cosmic emperor sitting comfortably on a dark throne, sits IC 1101. To truly comprehend the sheer, staggering scale of IC 1101, we must stretch our minds and willingly surrender to the profound mystery of the cosmos. This single ancient galaxy is estimated to be somewhere around 4 million to 6 million light years across from one edge to the other. Allow that thought to gently sink into your consciousness for a moment of quiet reflection. Our Milky Way, which already seemed impossibly large to our human minds, is only about 100,000 light-years wide. IC 1101 is roughly 40 to 60 times larger than our entire home galaxy. If you could somehow miraculously take IC 1101 and place it exactly where our Milky Way currently sits in the dark, it would not simply engulf our galaxy. It would entirely swallow our entire cosmic neighborhood. The massive Andromeda galaxy, resting roughly 2 million light-years away from us across the dark void, would find itself entirely swallowed inside the massive, glowing body of IC 1101. All of the dozens of smaller, quiet dwarf galaxies that orbit around us, places like the Large Magellanic Cloud and the Small Magellanic Cloud, would simply become tiny, insignificant components of this giant's vast, ancient structure. But the sheer physical size of this beast is merely the beginning of the wonder it inspires. This majestic galaxy is estimated to contain around 100 trillion stars, 100 trillion individual suns burning in the deep dark. Our Milky Way has maybe 400 billion stars at absolute most. That means IC 1101 holds roughly 250 times more stars than our own galaxy. If you were to look up at its alien sky and start gently counting its stars, 1 star per second without ever stopping to rest, it would take you over 3 million years just to count to 100 trillion. And that impossible, mind-bending task assumes you never slept, never ate, and never took a single breath away from your quiet journey through the infinite numbers. The renowned astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson often speaks of the cosmic perspective, a humbling view that reminds us of our true, tiny place within the grand tapestry of existence. To make these terrifyingly beautiful numbers feel a bit more real to our earthly minds, let us embark on a mental journey aboard the Voyager 1 spacecraft, launched into the silence of space by NASA in the year 1977. Voyager 1 is the absolute fastest human-made object ever to leave the comforting warmth of our solar system, traveling at roughly 38,000 miles per hour relative to our shining sun. At that staggering, almost incomprehensible speed, it would take Voyager 1 about 80,000 years just to reach the nearest star to our sun, Proxima Centauri, which is only about 4 light-years away. To cross the entire magnificent expanse of our Milky Way at Voyager, one's top speed would take roughly 2 billion years. Now, apply that same incredible speed to the massive bulk of IC 1101. To cross this single ancient galaxy, you would need somewhere between 80 billion and 120 billion years. That length of time is far, far greater than the entire universe has even existed since the Big Bang, even with the absolute fastest spacecraft humanity has ever successfully engineered. Crossing this solitary galaxy would be a completely impossible, infinitely frustrating journey. Here is another gentle poetic metaphor to help your mind grasp this overwhelming vastness without feeling entirely lost. Imagine, if you will, that you could magically shrink the entire Milky Way down to the size of a standard dinner plate, perhaps 10 inches across from edge to edge. If our galaxy were merely a plate, then IC 1101 would be the size of a massive, deep swimming pool. Our magnificent home, with all of its hundreds of billions of stars, and the elegant spiral arms where we make our peaceful home, would be just a tiny, insignificant dish, floating completely lost in a vast, overwhelming sea. Or consider the quiet, ancient light traveling tirelessly from this massive beast. The faint light we see from IC 1101 today left its glowing stars over 1 billion years ago. It has been traveling relentlessly through the freezing void of space for more than 1 billion years, simply to reach the polished lenses of our modern telescopes. When that light first began its long, lonely journey toward us, the Earth was still largely a primitive world covered mostly in single-celled organisms. Every major, defining event in human history, from the rise of the first ancient civilizations to the brilliant invention of the telescope itself, happened while that ancient light was still quietly crossing the unimaginable emptiness between the galaxies. The quiet discovery of this cosmic giant traces back to the late 18th century, specifically the year 1790, when a deeply curious, dedicated astronomer named William Herschel was systematically scanning the vast night sky with his handmade telescope. Herschel was a true pioneer, spending much of his life meticulously cataloging thousands of celestial objects hidden in the dark heavens. On a quiet June evening, he pointed his telescope toward the constellation Virgo and noticed a faint, fuzzy blob of light. He carefully recorded its position in his logs and gently moved on to the next object, having absolutely no way to know the terrifying majesty of what he was actually looking at. The scientific understanding did not yet exist in that era to recognize that this tiny smudge was an entire galaxy, completely separate from our own. For over a century, that faint smudge remained a profound mystery, quietly waiting in the dark. It was eventually given the clinical designation IC 1101 when it was included in a large catalog of celestial objects. Astronomers studied it occasionally when they could, but without the modern tools to understand its true, horrifying nature, it remained just another quiet entry in a very long list of cosmic curiosities. It was not until the 20th century, as telescopes grew larger and our understanding of the universe expanded tremendously, that the true, terrifying scale of Herschel's fuzzy blob was finally brought into the brilliant light of modern science. When we confront something as incomprehensibly massive as IC 1101, a deep, unsettling sense of awe begins to wash over us, demanding that we ask more questions. How does something grow so incredibly large in a universe governed by the quiet, orderly laws of physics? This galaxy did not achieve its monstrous proportions simply by resting peacefully in the dark for billions of years. It grew through an ancient, ongoing process of cosmic violence, a silent catastrophe stretching across billions of years. As we delve deeper into the origins of this massive structure, we begin to uncover a history that fundamentally challenges our perception of a peaceful cosmos. The universe is a place of profound transformation, where the largest structures are built upon the shattered remains of the small. We are standing together on the edge of a great cosmic precipice, peering down into the deep, mysterious history of galactic cannibalism. As we prepare to take our next step into the dark, remember that this journey is not about feeling small, but about expanding our minds to hold the infinite. The silence of the universe is absolutely full of answers, quietly waiting for us to ask the right questions and continue our gentle exploration together. Have you ever wondered what happens when the irresistible force of gravity stretches across the infinite, quiet emptiness of the cosmos? To truly understand how a solitary, ancient entity like IC 1101 could achieve such staggering proportions, we must explore the gentle dance of galactic cannibalism. Galaxies, despite their immense size, do not exist in absolute isolation. They are pulled together by their mutual gravitational attraction, forming massive, swirling clusters where they slowly move around each other in the perpetual dark. Sometimes they pass close by in a brief, silent greeting, but occasionally they collide directly in a majestic process that takes hundreds of millions of years to unfold. When two galaxies approach each other in the vastness of space, their immense gravity begins to pull and distort their glowing shapes. Trillions of stars get pulled completely out of their normal, peaceful orbits, while ancient clouds of gas and dust get compressed and stretched into long, ghostly ribbons that float across the freezing void. If the two interacting galaxies are roughly similar in mass, they might slowly merge together over an incredibly vast expanse of time, eventually forming a single, larger, glowing community. But when one galaxy is much bigger than the other, something profoundly awe-inspiring happens in the quiet depths of the universe. The larger galaxy simply and quietly absorbs the smaller one, gently stripping away its protective layers of stars and gas, completely adding all of that scattered material to its own massive, ancient body. This slow, relentless consumption is precisely what has been happening to our cosmic giant, IC 1101, for billions of uninterrupted years. As the absolute largest and most massive galaxy residing in its cluster, it sits heavily at the deep gravitational center of everything moving around it. Smaller, more fragile galaxies that venture too close are inevitably trapped by its enormous silent gravity. Unable to escape the gentle pull of the dark, they spiral inward through the cold vacuum, getting gently torn apart and entirely consumed over millions of years of steady cosmic time. Every single meal makes this ancient giant just a little bit bigger, a little bit more massive, and more dominant over its local patch of the cosmos. Scientists meticulously estimate that this ancient monster has undergone at least 76 major mergers over its incredibly long history. 76 separate times, Another substantial glowing galaxy fell into this cosmic giant and was completely absorbed into its featureless body. And those are merely the major interactions we can detect. Countless other smaller dwarf galaxies have also been slowly consumed. Galaxies so tiny they barely registered as a proper meal for this silent predator. This ongoing, ancient journey of consumption is written directly into the physical structure of the galaxy itself, a sprawling mystery waiting to be unraveled by our curious minds. When you look at a beautifully vibrant galaxy like our own Milky Way, you see an elegant, sweeping spiral pattern that inspires endless wonder. Those luminous, winding spiral arms are incredibly dynamic regions where new stars are actively forming, where immense, freezing clouds of gas are collapsing under gravity to create brilliant new stellar nurseries. Spiral galaxies possess incredibly abundant amounts of primordial gas and cosmic dust, the vital raw materials needed for the beautiful spark of star formation, and they maintain a distinct rotating disk shape that looks like a cosmic pinwheel. Yet, when astronomers turn their lenses toward IC 1101, it looks absolutely nothing like our familiar home. It is what astronomers gently classify as an elliptical galaxy, meaning it has a perfectly smooth, featureless, oval-shaped appearance without any twisting spiral arms at all. Elliptical galaxies are born when majestic spiral galaxies collide and violently merge together in the dark. The chaotic gravitational interactions during a major merger completely destroy the delicate, fragile spiral structure, violently but silently mixing all the billions of stars together into a much more random, spherical distribution. The profound fact that IC 1101 is such a smooth elliptical galaxy clearly tells us that it has experienced so many massive collisions that any original spiral structure it might have once possessed has been completely and forever erased from the universe. All of those ancient, slow-motion collisions, all of that profound gravitational chaos spreading across billions of years of deep time, has stirred up the trillions of stars like a gentle, invisible hand mixing ingredients in an impossibly massive, cosmic bowl. What remains, sitting quietly in the dark, is this completely smooth, featureless giant, serving as a silent, glowing testament to billions of years of relentless galactic consumption. But within this awe-inspiring history lies a deeply moving paradox that challenges our understanding of the infinite. Despite containing an unfathomable 100 trillion individual stars, this enormous monster is actually a fading, dying galaxy. The stars residing within its vast, overwhelming expanse are almost all profoundly old, relics of a forgotten era. Most of them are what astronomers gently call red giants or yellow stars, ancient stellar objects that have already burned through the vast majority of their nuclear fuel and are nearing the end of their long journeys. Very few new, brilliant blue stars are being born inside its immense boundaries today, leaving the galaxy bathed in a soft, aging glow. This quiet reality might seem strange at first, especially when contemplating an object with so many stars and such staggering mass. You might naturally expect such a massive galaxy to be a vibrant hotbed of stellar activity, but we must remember exactly how it grew to such an enormous size in the first place. Every single time IC 1101 reached out with its gravity and consumed another passing galaxy, it also eagerly consumed that smaller galaxy's precious, finite gas supply. Gas is the absolute fundamental fuel necessary for star formation. Without it, new stars simply cannot be born in the freezing depths of space. Over billions of years of relentless, silent cannibalism, this giant has either used up or violently expelled most of its available star-forming gas. The majestic mergers themselves were often energetic enough to heat the surrounding gas to extreme, blistering temperatures, making it expand and gracefully escape the gravity of the galaxy entirely, flowing out into the intergalactic void. Sometimes, the gas was compressed so quickly during the chaos of the collision that it all formed into stars at once, in brief, incredibly intense bursts of brilliant activity that lit up the ancient darkness before fading away. Either way, the final melancholic result is a massive galaxy that has completely run out of the raw material needed to sustain the beautiful cycle of stellar birth. What remains today is a quiet, ancient giant, slowly and inevitably fading away into the endless cosmic night. The trillions of stars that exist now within its immense borders will continue to shine with a gentle, patient, reddish light for billions of years to come. But, as they eventually burn out and gracefully die, releasing their final breaths of energy into the cold vacuum, there will be absolutely no new, bright generations of stars to take their place in the dark. IC1101 is exactly like a massive, ancient kingdom that has successfully conquered all of its surrounding neighbors, expanding its vast borders beyond imagination, but sadly has no children left to carry on its glowing, historic legacy. It is staggeringly massive, undeniably powerful, and utterly magnificent to behold, inspiring a deep sense of humility in anyone who attempts to grasp its scale. But it is also quietly approaching the gentle end of its active life, serving as a profound reminder that even the most enduring structures in the universe are subject to the relentless flow of time. This creates a profound sense of melancholy wonder, reminding us that every journey, no matter how vast or ancient, has an eventual quiet resting point. We are looking at a glowing tombstone, marking billions of years of violent cosmic history, transformed into a peaceful, silent sphere of aging light. As we sit in the quiet comfort of our small rocky world and contemplate this fading giant, we must gently ask ourselves what ultimate mysteries lie hidden within its deepest, most impenetrable core. What happens to the dead center of a galaxy that has continuously consumed dozens of its neighbors over an incomprehensible expanse of time? The vast silence of the universe often conceals phenomena so incredibly extreme that our fragile human minds struggle to bend around the very concepts required to understand them. Because at the very heart of this fading monster, perfectly hidden behind overlapping curtains of 100 trillion ancient stars, sits something even more terrifying and beautiful than the galaxy itself. An anchor pulling on the fabric of reality. The very center of this massive, dying kingdom holds a deep, dark secret. A monstrous entity that grew quietly alongside the galaxy, feeding in the deep shadows for billions of years without making a single sound. Our journey of discovery together is far from over. We must now prepare our minds to take a profound step into the absolute center of the mystery, into an environment where space and time begin to lose their familiar, comforting meaning, and the extreme laws of physics invite us to continue our gentle, eternal exploration of the infinite unknown. Have you ever found yourself sitting in absolute silence, listening so closely that you begin to hear the steady, rhythmic beating of your own heart? In the grand, sweeping architecture of the cosmos, galaxies possess their own quiet, ancient hearts beating in the dark. At the very heart of IC1101 lies something even more incredible, more fundamentally terrifying and awe-inspiring than the sprawling galaxy itself. Sitting quietly at the center of this cosmic giant is one of the absolute largest known supermassive black holes in the entire observable universe. Every single large galaxy we observe, scattered across the void, holds a supermassive black hole safely at its core. Our own gentle Milky Way has one affectionately named Sagittarius A star, which contains about 4 million times the mass of our warming sun. The dark hole resting at the center of our majestic neighbor, the Andromeda Galaxy, is significantly bigger, containing somewhere around 100 million to 200 million solar masses. But the ancient entity dwelling at the dead center of IC 1101 exists in a completely, unimaginably different category. It is a singularity of such profound density and gravity that it challenges our deepest understanding of the infinite. Dedicated scientists carefully estimate that it contains somewhere between 40 billion and 100 billion times the mass of our Sun. To place that staggering number in gentle perspective, this single, silent black hole might possess 25,000 times more mass than the black hole anchored at the center of our entire Milky Way galaxy. This is a mystery of such staggering proportions that we must approach it with deep, quiet humility. Let me gently help you understand just how utterly massive this hidden monster truly is. If you could somehow miraculously weigh our entire Earth, with all its deep oceans, towering mountains, and sprawling cities, you would find it has a mass of about 6 trillion kilograms. That number sounds like an incredible amount until you quietly compare it to the Sun, which is about 330,000 times more massive than our tiny Earth. Our comforting Sun is actually a fairly ordinary, typical star, neither particularly large nor particularly small by standard stellar measurements. Now, I invite you to take the staggering mass of our Sun and multiply it by 50 billion. That unfathomable result is roughly how much ancient mass is compressed and packed into the supermassive black hole at IC 1101's silent center. All of that overwhelming, infinite mass is crushed and compressed into a region of space from which absolutely nothing can ever hope to escape. The gravitational pull at the event horizon, the absolute boundary of the dark hole, is so unimaginably intense that even light itself cannot break free to travel across the cosmos. The physical size of a black hole's event horizon depends entirely and beautifully upon its mass. For a black hole containing 50 billion solar masses, the event horizon would possess a radius of roughly 150 billion kilometers. That measurement might sound enormous to our human minds, and it truly is. But remember with a sense of wonder that this is a region containing 50 billion times the mass of the Sun compressed into what is essentially a single, infinitely small point at the deep center. The event horizon is not a physical object you could ever reach out and gently touch. It is simply the mathematical boundary beyond which escape gently becomes impossible. To put this vast scale into a perspective we can hold in our minds, consider that our entire solar system, stretching from the warm Sun all the way to the freezing orbit of Neptune, is roughly 9 billion kilometers across. The event horizon of IC 1101's black hole is roughly 16 times larger than our entire solar system. If you could magically place this ancient black hole exactly where our Sun is currently resting, its dark event horizon would extend well beyond the distant, frozen orbit of Pluto, entirely engulfing absolutely everything we consider our comforting cosmic home. What would it truly be like to exist near this monstrous, silent black hole in the deep dark? The fundamental physics of such extreme, terrifying environments is profoundly bizarre and deeply counterintuitive to our everyday earthly experiences. Time itself, the steady rhythm that governs our quiet lives, would pass entirely differently near the edge of the event horizon, compared to a peaceful observer resting far away. Someone falling toward the silent black hole would see the entire outside universe dramatically speed up, while a quiet outside observer would watch the falling person gently slow down, appearing to completely freeze as they slowly approach the dark horizon. From the safety of the outside, they would absolutely never seem to actually cross that final, terrifying boundary. It is a beautiful, melancholic paradox of relativity that connects the deepest mechanics of the universe to the simple beating of a human heart. If one were to gently drift past that invisible threshold, deep inside the event horizon, all possible directions physically lead toward the singularity at the absolute center. Space and time themselves become so fundamentally warped and folded that the very concept of escaping becomes completely meaningless. The dark singularity, a terrifying point of theoretically infinite density, would ruthlessly tear apart anything that fell in, violently stretching it into extremely long, thin, fragile strands through a fascinating process that dedicated physicists have playfully nicknamed spaghettification. But here is something profoundly remarkable and deeply comforting about this ancient entity. Despite its enormous, overwhelming size and terrifying physical properties, the black hole at IC 1101's center is currently existing in a relatively quiet, peaceful state. It is not actively devouring huge amounts of stellar matter from its surroundings. There is absolutely no brilliant, glowing accretion disk swirling violently around its dark equator. There is no powerful, blinding jet of plasma shooting out into the dark space at nearly the speed of light. The ancient black hole is simply there, waiting silently in the dark, because it has already entirely consumed most of the available material that was easily within its gravitational reach. This profound quietness is actually intimately related to the exact same cosmic phenomenon that has sadly stopped IC 1101 from forming any new, glowing stars. Most of the life-giving gas in the giant galaxy has already been entirely used up or blown away. Without any fresh gas gently falling toward the deep center, the enormous black hole simply has very little left to eat. Occasionally, a solitary ancient star might drift too close in its orbital journey and get violently torn apart, providing a brief, brilliant meal for the sleeping giant. But these dramatic events are incredibly rare in the modern, quiet era of this fading galaxy. The black hole, exactly like the massive, aging galaxy that gently hosts it, is a true giant resting in quiet repose, undeniably powerful but deeply dormant in the cosmic night. However, the silent dark still holds ghostly whispers of this giant's incredibly violent past. Astronomers studying the deep universe have detected a powerful radio source residing at IC 1101's center. Carefully catalogued as PKS 508 plus 059. This ancient radio emission comes directly from what were once relativistic jets, powerful streams of highly charged particles that were accelerated to nearly the speed of light and violently ejected from the chaotic vicinity of the black hole. These majestic jets are naturally powered by the massive black hole's rotation and its intensely twisted magnetic fields, and they possess enough raw energy to literally carve out enormous sweeping cavities in the surrounding, freezing gas of the galaxy. Breathtaking images gathered from powerful X-ray telescopes show these ancient cavities clearly. The giant, ancient galaxy and its incredibly giant, silent black hole have gently reached a profound kind of cosmic equilibrium, with each massive entity having intricately shaped the other over billions of years of shared, quiet evolution. Our journey of understanding is an infinite path, preparing us to listen to the echoes of ancient collisions that shape the eternal silence. Have you ever watched a single fragile drop of autumn rain gently fall into a perfectly still pond, watching as the ripples slowly expand until they become one with the deep, quiet water? In the vast, silent architecture of the cosmos, no single entity exists in absolute, unbroken isolation. Even an unfathomably massive giant like IC1101 is intimately connected to a much larger, swirling ocean of matter and energy. To truly understand the ancient, quiet mystery of this fading galaxy, we must gently zoom out and observe the majestic environment that surrounds it in the dark. This magnificent monster rests exactly at the gravitational heart of the Abel 2029 galaxy cluster, and understanding this massive, swirling community helps us beautifully understand why IC1101 became so terrifyingly enormous in the very first place. Galaxy clusters are among the absolute largest gravitationally bound structures in the entire observable universe. They can effortlessly contain hundreds or even many thousands of individual glowing galaxies, all participating in a slow, elegant cosmic dance around a common, invisible center of mass. But the vast, freezing space resting between these scattered galaxies is not truly empty. It is gently filled with an incredibly sparse, extremely hot plasma known as the intracluster medium. This ancient, invisible gas is heated to staggering temperatures of tens of millions of degrees by the profound gravitational energy released as the massive cluster slowly formed over billions of years. Abel 2029 is what astronomers peacefully describe as a relaxed cluster, which beautifully means it has successfully settled into a fairly stable, quiet configuration over an immense expanse of deep time. The hundreds of galaxies within it have had ample time to sort themselves out in the dark, with the absolute most massive ones slowly sinking toward the deep center due to a fascinating physical process called dynamical friction. As more massive, glowing objects move steadily through a vast sea of smaller, quieter objects, they experience a gentle kind of gravitational drag that slowly saps their momentum and causes them to inevitably spiral inward through the cold vacuum. IC1101 sits quietly at the very bottom of this deep gravitational well, at the absolute densest part of the cluster where ancient galaxies are packed most tightly together in the endless night. This specific, privileged location is absolutely not a simple cosmic coincidence. Our ancient giant grew so terrifyingly large precisely because it rested in this central, inescapable position. As other, smaller galaxies slowly spiraled toward the deep cluster center over billions of years, they inevitably encountered the sprawling borders of IC1101 and were quietly absorbed into its featureless body. The exact same relentless process that brought this galaxy to the deep center also brought it a constant, steady supply of glowing victims to endlessly consume. The invisible, superheated gas that fills the vast volume of the cluster also plays a profoundly crucial role in the ongoing evolution of IC1101. This intracluster medium is incredibly, almost incomprehensibly sparse by our normal earthly standards. If you could somehow reach out and scoop up a single cubic meter of this gas, you would find only a few solitary, wandering atoms. But because there is so much of it spread continuously across millions of light years of silent space, it adds up to an enormous, staggering amount of total mass. This invisible gas is so incredibly hot that it continuously emits high-energy X-rays, which is precisely how our modern orbiting telescopes are able to gently detect it in the dark. Powerful X-ray observatories have meticulously mapped the sprawling distribution of this hot gas in the Able 2029 cluster, revealing a beautiful, eerie truth. It is heavily concentrated directly around IC 1101 at the cluster's beating heart. The gas gently forms a kind of superheated atmosphere around the giant galaxy, a thin, glowing haze of extremely energetic particles extending for millions of light years out into the deep void. The lingering presence of this hot gas holds deep, melancholic implications for the ultimate future of our cosmic giant. Over vast, sweeping scales of time, this hot gas can slowly cool down, quietly radiating away its thermal energy into the dark. When this ancient gas cools down enough, it can theoretically fall gently into the central galaxy and potentially fuel a brilliant, new era of stellar birth. In some other distant galaxy clusters scattered across the cosmos, astronomers have observed enormous, majestic flows of cooling gas, representing hundreds of solar masses worth of fresh material every single year, quietly streaming into the central galaxy to spark new life. But in the specific quiet case of IC 1101, something profound and invisible seems to be entirely preventing this gentle cooling flow from igniting a new, beautiful burst of star formation. The leading scientific theory points directly back to the sleeping monster we explored earlier, the supermassive black hole resting at the galaxy's dead center. When the ancient gas begins to cool and fall toward the dark hole, some of it inevitably gets violently heated up and blown right back out into the surrounding cluster before it can ever form a star. This creates a deeply fascinating, elegant feedback loop where the silent black hole strictly regulates the entire gas supply, completely preventing too much material from ever accumulating and forming a new generation of burning suns. We can actually see the ghostly evidence of this ancient feedback mechanism in our detailed observations. There are massive, sweeping cavities perfectly carved into the hot gas around the galaxy, gigantic bubbles that have been gently blown outward by the historic jets from the central black hole. These massive cavities are millions of light years across, representing enormous, quiet voids meticulously carved out of the intracluster medium by the staggering energy output of the dark hole over millions of years. This profound feedback mechanism acts exactly like a cosmic thermostat, heating up the surrounding gas whenever too much starts to cool, keeping the entire massive galaxy in a state of permanent, quiet energy balance. The intricate interplay between giant galaxies, their hidden supermassive black holes, and the hot, invisible gas swirling in galaxy clusters is one of the most profoundly beautiful areas of research in modern astrophysics. To truly appreciate this delicate equilibrium, we must gently travel back in time and trace the sweeping timeline of IC 1101's history. This grand, silent story spans billions of years and involves physical processes that are incredibly difficult for our human minds to fully hold. But understanding this deep history helps us deeply appreciate how this cosmic giant came to be the quiet monument it is today. The story begins roughly 13 billion years ago. not very long after the magnificent dawn of the Big Bang itself. The universe at that early, ancient time was vastly different from the quiet, structured cosmos we see scattered above us today. There were absolutely no galaxies yet, just vast, endless clouds of primordial hydrogen and helium gas left over from the very first few glowing minutes of cosmic history. These ancient, sprawling clouds were not perfectly uniform in the dark. Some tiny regions were slightly, almost imperceptibly denser than others, and the patient, relentless hand of gravity gently began to pull these denser regions together over millions of years. Over the very first few 100 million years of time, these denser regions quietly collapsed to form the absolute first, brilliant stars, and the very first primitive proto-galaxies. These early, fragile galaxies were small, irregular, and chaotic collections of glowing stars, looking absolutely nothing like the grand, sweeping spirals and massive, smooth ellipticals we observe today. They formed naturally in the absolute densest parts of the cosmic web, the vast, invisible network of dark matter filaments and nodes that beautifully defines the large-scale structure of our universe. The specific, quiet region of space that would eventually become the sprawling Abel 2029 cluster was exactly one of these incredibly dense, primordial intersections. Many small, eager galaxies formed there in the dark, and they immediately began interacting with each other in a chaotic, ancient dance. Mergers happened incredibly frequently in the extremely early universe, back when all galaxies were physically much closer together and the entire cosmic web was far more compact than it is in our modern era. One of those early, chaotic galaxies, or perhaps a violent merger product of several of them, was the direct, ancient ancestor of IC1101. We do not know exactly what this ancient proto-galaxy looked like in the dark, but it was probably a chaotic collection of just a few billion stars, maybe spanning only 100,000 light-years across, with a small, rapidly growing black hole hiding at its center. Over the next several billion years, this specific proto-galaxy experienced merger after violent merger. Each and every time a smaller, fragile galaxy wandered too close in the dark, gravity quietly captured it and eventually absorbed it into the growing mass. Each merger added billions of stars and vast clouds of gas, and each merger faithfully fed the central growing black hole. The galaxy grew steadily larger and larger, and its privileged position at the exact center of a dense cosmic intersection ensured a steady, unbroken supply of victims. By about 10 billion years ago, the ancestor of IC1101 had probably already transformed into a giant, smooth, elliptical galaxy, having successfully experienced dozens of major, chaotic mergers. It would have been one of the absolute largest galaxies in its local part of the universe even then, though not yet nearly as massive as the monster it is today. The next several billion years saw a period of continued, relentless growth, though proceeding at a somewhat slower, more patient pace as the universe aged and gently expanded into the infinite dark. The most intense, chaotic period of rapid galaxy formation was slowly winding down across the entire observable cosmos. Overall star formation rates were gently declining, as galaxies everywhere systematically used up their primordial gas supplies in the dark. Mergers became slightly less frequent, as the relentless expansion of the universe slowly carried galaxies farther and farther apart from one another. But IC1101 remained in a profoundly special, anchored location. The Abel 2029 cluster had grown and deeply matured around it, and IC 1101 sat heavy and unmoving at its very heart. Galaxies continued to fall gracefully toward the deep cluster center, irresistibly drawn by the enormous combined gravity of all the ancient matter gathered there. And when they finally reached that dark center, they encountered the sprawling, featureless borders of IC 1101. During this long, quiet period, IC 1101 probably experienced another 20 or 30 major mergers, along with countless minor ones that barely disturbed its smooth surface. Each majestic merger added to its staggering mass. Each merger gently stirred up its trillions of aging stars. Each merger faithfully fed its already enormous silent black hole, cementing its status as a cosmic king resting in eternal peace. Our journey through this deep history is preparing us to understand a much greater mystery about the nature of time itself. Have you ever stood on a quiet shore at twilight, watching a distant ship slowly drift away until it completely vanishes beyond the curving horizon, leaving you entirely alone with the vast, murmuring ocean? In the grand architecture of the cosmos, a very similar, deeply melancholic separation is happening right now, completely unnoticed in our everyday lives. For billions of years, our giant galaxy, IC 1101, has sat comfortably at the center of its massive cluster, gently pulling its neighbors inward and feeding its unimaginable growth. But this ancient era of relentless galactic cannibalism cannot continue forever. The sleeping monster has already consumed the vast majority of the fragile galaxies that were close enough to fall into its gravitational embrace. Those few ancient neighbors that remain are either far too distant or moving far too quickly through the dark to be easily captured. The surrounding Abel 2029 cluster is slowly spreading out due to the fundamental expansion of the universe, quietly carrying potential victims farther away from IC 1101's fading gravitational reach. At the exact same time, the larger infinite universe is profoundly changing in ways that will eventually affect every single glowing galaxy. Space itself is expanding, and not just expanding in a steady rhythm, but terrifyingly accelerating in its endless stretch. This gentle but unstoppable acceleration is driven by something scientists quietly call dark energy, a profound, mysterious force that fundamentally dictates the ultimate destiny of everything we can see in the night sky. To truly appreciate the deep mystery of dark energy, we must travel back to a moment of profound scientific shock. For the vast majority of the 20th century, dedicated astronomers naturally assumed that the expansion of the universe, which began with the explosive birth of the Big Bang, was gradually slowing down. This made perfect intuitive sense to our human minds. Absolutely everything in the universe is gently pulling on everything else through the invisible, persistent force of gravity. You would naturally expect all of that combined gravitational attraction to act exactly like a cosmic brake, gradually and peacefully slowing the initial expansion of space. However, in the year 1998, two independent teams of astronomers made a discovery so deeply shocking that it forever altered our relationship with the cosmos. They were meticulously measuring the expansion rate of the universe by observing distant, exploding supernovas, using these brilliant flashes of light as reliable standard candles to carefully calculate incomprehensible cosmic distances. What they found hidden in the data was completely unexpected. The infinite universe was absolutely not slowing down. It was actually speeding up in the dark. Distant, glowing galaxies were moving away from us significantly faster than closer ones, and the overall rate of cosmic expansion was accelerating over the deep passage of time. This revelation was so profoundly unexpected that the astronomers initially believed they had made a simple human error in their calculations. But, as more and more precise data gently drifted in from other ancient supernovas and from entirely different astronomical observations, the terrifying result held firmly up to scrutiny. Something vast and invisible was actively pushing the universe apart, silently counteracting the familiar pull of gravity and causing the very fabric of space itself to expand at an ever-increasing runaway rate. Scientists reverently named this mysterious invisible force dark energy. Although the simple name tells us very little about what it actually is, we do know that dark energy makes up roughly 68% of all the total energy and matter in the entire observable universe. We know with absolute certainty that it acts as a kind of silent anti-gravity, gently pushing space apart rather than pulling it together. We also know that its profound effects become increasingly more dominant over deep time as the universe expands, and ordinary matter becomes more and more spread out across the freezing void. But we absolutely do not know what dark energy is actually made of, exactly where it originates, or why it possesses the precise, delicate strength that it does in our cosmos. This deep, lingering mystery might simply be an inherent property of empty space itself, something Albert Einstein once proposed as a cosmological constant and later playfully dismissed as his biggest blunder. It might be an entirely new, undiscovered kind of energy field that quietly pervades the entire universe. It might even be a profound sign that our current, cherished understanding of gravity is simply incomplete and needs to be completely revised by a future generation of curious minds. But regardless of its true hidden nature, what we do know with absolute certainty is that dark energy is aggressively reshaping the ultimate future of the cosmos. As the fabric of space expands faster and faster, distant objects recede from us at ever-increasing, dizzying speeds. There is a strict, unbreakable physical limit to exactly how fast a beam of light can travel through the vacuum, but there is absolutely no limit to how fast space itself can stretch and expand. Eventually, over incomprehensible scales of deep time, distant objects will be carried away from us by the expansion of space significantly faster than their ancient light can ever travel back toward our telescopes. When that terrifying moment finally happens, those distant galaxies will simply vanish behind an invisible cosmic horizon, slipping forever beyond our visual perception. For our massive giant, IC 1101, this accelerating expansion means that its ancient days of growth through galactic cannibalism are strictly numbered. Eventually, there will simply be absolutely no more galaxies left in the dark for it to quietly consume. It will become profoundly isolated, a lonely, fading giant floating adrift in an ever-emptying universe, quietly watching as, one by one, the other distant galaxies simply fade from view, like dying embers in a cold fire. Let me gently paint a more detailed, melancholic picture of what this incredibly distant future truly looks like. Remember that IC1101 sits securely within the Abel 2029 cluster, completely surrounded by hundreds of other glowing galaxies. These familiar companions are bound tightly together by their mutual gravity, gracefully orbiting around their common center of mass. For the time being, their shared gravity is strong enough to successfully hold the cluster together against the relentless, pulling expansion of space. But in roughly 100 billion years, The cosmic expansion will have accelerated to the terrifying point where galaxies resting entirely outside the local supercluster will begin to disappear completely over the dark cosmic horizon. From the quiet perspective of IC1101, the majestic night sky will slowly start to empty itself. One by one, distant, glowing galaxy clusters will quietly fade from view, their ancient light no longer able to reach across the rapidly expanding void to touch the giant's stars. The entire observable universe, which currently contains about 2 trillion brilliant galaxies, will shrink and shrink into an ever-deepening darkness. Within the Abel 2029 cluster itself, things will remain intimately connected for a while longer. The galaxies there are resting close enough and are bound tightly enough that they will comfortably stay together, even as the larger infinite universe quietly empties out around them. Over the next several billion years, these remaining galaxies will faithfully continue to interact, violently merge, and slowly evolve in the dark. IC1101 might still consume a few more straggling victims, growing just slightly larger even as the rest of the cosmos slips silently away. But eventually, the relentless mechanics of gravity will claim their final victory locally. Even the remaining isolated galaxies within the cluster will slowly merge together into the center. The exact same ancient, quiet processes that built IC1101 will continue drawing the remaining companion galaxies toward the deep heart of the cluster, where they will be permanently absorbed into an even larger, unimaginably massive combined structure. In the extremely long run, perhaps in several 100 billion years, absolutely all the galaxies in the Abel 2029 cluster might merge into one single, enormous, lonely galaxy, even larger than IC1101 is today. By that incredibly distant time, however, the universe stretching beyond the cluster will be essentially completely empty. Absolutely no light from any distant objects will be reaching the isolated cluster anymore. The alien night sky, if any curious observers still existed to look up in wonder, would show only the gentle, fading stars of their local merged galaxy set against a terrifying, unbroken backdrop of absolute, infinite blackness. The entire rest of the majestic cosmos would have quietly slipped beyond the invisible horizon, becoming entirely unreachable and forever unknowable. This profound, sweeping isolation is exactly what awaits IC1101, cut off from absolutely everything else by the relentless, silent expansion of space. Each isolated island of matter will be left completely alone with itself as the quiet eons endlessly roll by. But even this terrifying isolation is not the final, quiet end of our story. The universe has one more deeply beautiful, melancholic chapter to share with us, revealing the ultimate fate of the stars themselves. Have you ever sat quietly by a dying campfire, watching in peaceful silence as the bright flames gently subside into a bed of soft, glowing embers, radiating a final warmth into the cold night? In the incredibly distant future of our sprawling universe, a very similar, deeply beautiful transition awaits every single galaxy, including the massive giant we have been exploring. What ultimately happens to a sprawling empire of 100 trillion stars in a cosmos slowly winding down toward a freezing state known as heat death? The profound answer is as magnificent as it is melancholic. Over the next 100 trillion years, the luminous stars residing within the infinite borders of IC1101 will patiently burn completely out. The most massive blue stars, the ones that lived fast and died young in blinding supernova explosions, vanished from this ancient galaxy billions of years ago. Their violent passing left behind only silent black holes and rapidly spinning neutron stars hidden in the void. Today, the giant galaxy is dominated by middle-sized stars, much like our own warming sun, and countless dim red dwarfs. But even these steady cosmic fires cannot possibly burn forever in the endless dark. Let us walk together through this grand era of stellar death, because the timescales involved are mind-boggling and require a meditative focus to truly appreciate. Stars that are roughly the exact same size as our Sun possess active lifespans of about 10 billion years. Our Sun is currently resting peacefully roughly halfway through its long life, with about 5 billion years left before it fundamentally changes. When its deep core finally runs completely out of hydrogen fuel, it will swell massively outward into a giant red star, perhaps engulfing the inner planets in a fiery embrace. Eventually, it will shed its outer gaseous layers, creating a beautiful cloud of illuminated plasma called a planetary nebula, and leave behind a tiny, incredibly dense ember known as a white dwarf. In the ancient body of IC 1101, billions of sun-like stars have already completed this exact transformation. Others are still shining today, bravely casting their ancient light into the freezing void. But over the next several billion years, they too will exhaust their precious nuclear fuel, puff away their atmospheres into the dark, and permanently join the cooling ranks of the white dwarfs. But the absolute most numerous stars in any given galaxy, including our fading giant, are the tiny, dim, incredibly long-lived red dwarfs. These small, quiet stars possess only a tiny fraction of the total mass of our Sun, but they hold a profound secret within their cores. They burn their hydrogen fuel so incredibly slowly that they can shine steadily for trillions upon trillions of years. A single red dwarf, born at the exact same time as our Sun, will still be burning brightly long after our Sun has completely faded into a cold, unfeeling remnant. In the overwhelming vastness of IC 1101, with its 100 trillion individual stars, there are untold numbers of these patient red dwarfs. These tiny, quiet fires will be the absolute last to go out in the dark. For trillions of years after the larger stars have all peacefully died away, the red dwarfs will stubbornly continue to burn, providing the absolute only remaining light in an otherwise darkening galaxy. They will become the lonely sentinels of a fading cosmos, a final testament to the glorious era of ancient starlight. Yet, even the patient red dwarfs possess their inescapable limits in the grand flow of cosmic time. The absolute smallest of these tiny stars can steadily burn for up to 10 trillion years. That unimaginable span of time is roughly 700 times longer than the entire age of the observable universe, but eventually, even they will exhaust their lingering drops of hydrogen fuel, shrinking down quietly to become tiny white dwarfs and gently fading into the absolute darkness. Dedicated scientists carefully estimate that all active star formation across the universe will permanently cease in about 100 trillion years. By that distant era, the primordial gas strictly needed to forge new stars will have been completely used up or dispersed far too thinly to ever collapse under gravity again. Absolutely no new stars will be born to replace the trillions that have peacefully died. The brilliant era of starlight, the majestic epoch in which we are so incredibly fortunate to exist right now, will be permanently over. One by one, the 100 trillion stars of IC 1101 will simply wink out in the dark. The giant galaxy will grow steadily dimmer over sweeping timescales that make the vast age of the universe seem like absolutely nothing more than the invisible blink of a human eye. Where once there was an overwhelming blaze of ancient stellar light illuminating the dark, there will eventually be absolutely nothing left but the freezing remnants of dead stars, countless billions of slowly cooling white dwarfs, incredibly dense neutron stars, and silent black holes will drift endlessly through an ever-expanding, ever-darkening void. The universe at this specific stage will be an incredibly dark place, but it is deeply important to understand that it will not be an entirely empty one. All those trillions of stellar corpses will still physically exist in the silence. They will continue to orbit gracefully through the completely merged remnant of what was once the vibrant IC 1101 and its surrounding cluster companions. The giant galaxy will become a quiet ghost of its former brilliant self, populated entirely by the cold corpses of stars rather than by living suns. It will be a majestic graveyard floating peacefully in the infinite night. But even this freezing darkness is absolutely not the end of the cosmic journey. Over even longer timescales, measured in years possessing so many zeros that simply writing them all out would easily fill thousands of pages, even these stubborn stellar corpses will fundamentally decay. The billions of white dwarfs will patiently radiate their remaining trapped heat into the freezing vacuum of space. This agonizingly slow cooling process takes an almost inconceivable amount of deep time. A standard white dwarf cools down to near absolute zero, only after about 1 million billion years have quietly passed. That staggering length of time is roughly 100,000 times longer than the entire age of our universe. When they finally lose their very last traces of thermal energy, they will become what physicists quietly call black dwarfs, incredibly dense objects that no longer emit absolutely any light or heat at all. They will become completely invisible, drifting silently through the dark, indistinguishable from the freezing emptiness of space that surrounds them. The ultimate fate of the heavier remnants, the rapidly spinning neutron stars, introduces us to one of the deepest mysteries of modern physics. These massive objects might also fundamentally decay as their basic subatomic particles gradually break down over near infinite time. We are not entirely certain about this profound process because it completely depends on whether protons, the fundamental building blocks of all atomic nuclei, are truly stable, or whether they eventually decay into lighter particles and pure radiation. Some beautiful theories of theoretical physics gently predict that protons should fundamentally decay with an incredibly long half-life, perhaps over a staggering span of 10 billion trillion years. If this elegant mathematical theory holds true, then over unfathomably long time spans, absolutely all the ordinary matter that makes up the silent neutron stars, the freezing black dwarfs, the wandering planets, and absolutely everything else we have ever known will gradually dissolve entirely into a thin mist of pure radiation. The very physical substance of the universe will quietly unweave itself in the dark. And what of the massive black holes, including that enormous 50 billion solar mass monster resting quietly at the absolute dead center of IC 1101? Even these ultimate gravitational traps are absolutely not truly eternal. They will slowly evaporate into the cold vacuum through a fascinating quantum process known as Hawking radiation. The renowned physicist Stephen Hawking beautifully discovered that black holes are absolutely not perfectly black. Due to highly complex quantum mechanical effects occurring right at the razor-thin edge of the event horizon, they slowly leak tiny subatomic particles and low-energy radiation over immense timescales, gradually shrinking and losing their ancient mass. In the strange world of quantum physics, particle pairs are constantly popping into fragile existence and then instantly annihilating each other. Near a black hole's boundary, one member of such a fragile pair can fall quietly into the dark hole while its partner safely escapes into space. Over near infinite time, this relentless process completely drains the mass and energy from the black hole. The absolute rate of this gentle Hawking radiation is incredibly slow for massive black holes. A black hole possessing merely the exact mass of our warming sun would take roughly 1 followed by 67 zeros years to completely evaporate into the dark vacuum. But the supermassive black hole resting at the silent center of IC 1101 is billions upon billions of times more massive than our Sun, and the incomprehensible time strictly required for it to fully evaporate is correspondingly much longer. A cosmic monster containing 50 billion solar masses would easily take something like 1 followed by 100 zeros years to completely evaporate, a span of time gracefully known as a Google years. To write out that staggering number in full would require far more paper than physically exists on our entire Earth. It is a span of time so overwhelmingly vast that absolutely everything we have discussed so far, from the explosive Big Bang to the peaceful death of the absolute last stars, is not even a tiny rounding error by direct comparison. It is the closest thing to absolute eternity that our physical universe can possibly offer us. But even this seemingly infinite stretching time will eventually pass. Eventually, trillions upon trillions upon trillions of years from this present fleeting moment, even the ancient black hole at the heart of IC 1101 will have patiently radiated away its absolute last bit of energy. It will simply disappear from the universe entirely in a final quiet burst of fading Hawking radiation. When that incredibly distant final moment arrives, there will be absolutely nothing left of the sprawling giant galaxy at all. No glowing stars, no silent black holes, no cold remnants of any kind will remain. Just the fading particles and stretching radiation that once made up a magnificent empire, spreading infinitely outward through an ever-expanding, ever-cooling, ever-darkening universe. The absolute largest galaxy we have ever discovered will have perfectly followed the exact same ultimate path as every other structure in the cosmos, gracefully dissolving into the endless night. This vision might initially seem bleak, but I find something profoundly beautiful about it. It makes this current moment of cosmic history, where stars still shine and galaxies still glow, incredibly precious. We must now turn our gaze back from the infinite future and look at our own quiet corner of the dark to understand how this grand story intimately connects to our own home. Have you ever stood quietly by a winding river, watching as two gentle streams of water slowly weave together, their separate currents blending seamlessly into a single, more powerful flow heading toward the endless sea? In the grand, silent architecture of the cosmos, this exact same beautiful process of merging and combining is happening all around us, not just in the distant, terrifying reaches of the Abel 2029 cluster, but right here in our own quiet neighborhood. We have journeyed together to the absolute edge of imagination, exploring the unimaginably vast scale and the ultimate freezing fate of IC 1101, a giant that seems completely disconnected from our daily human lives. But the universe is a profoundly unified tapestry, and the very same relentless forces of gravity and time that shaped that distant dying monster are actively writing the future of our own home. To truly understand our personal place in the infinite dark, we must gently turn our gaze back from the edge of eternity and look closely at the magnificent swirling spiral of the Milky Way, a breathtaking structure of gas, dust, and hundreds of billions of glowing stars. Our comforting home galaxy is absolutely not immune to the ancient sweeping laws of cosmic evolution. We are intimately participating in the exact same eternal dance of galactic interaction and silent consumption that built the absolute largest structures in the cosmos. Right now, as you quietly breathe in the still air of the present moment, our galaxy is actively in the slow, majestic process of consuming several of its smaller, fragile neighbors. The Canis Major Dwarf Galaxy is currently being gently ripped apart in the dark, its ancient stars being seamlessly absorbed into the massive, spinning disk of the Milky Way. The Sagittarius Dwarf Elliptical Galaxy, another quiet companion, is being mercilessly stretched and distorted by our overwhelming gravitational pull, leaving long, ghostly streams of scattered stars tracing elegant paths across our night sky. These fragile ribbons of starlight are beautiful, silent reminders of tiny galaxies that once existed as entirely separate, independent entities before they wandered too close to our gravitational embrace. They are the peaceful ghosts of cosmic history, offering us a profound glimpse into the fundamental mechanics of the universe. Every single time you look up at the dark sky, you are looking at a living, breathing structure that is constantly growing and changing, completely unaware of the tiny, curious minds observing it from a rocky planet. But these minor mergers, these gentle absorptions of dwarf galaxies, are merely a quiet prelude to a much grander, far more dramatic event that patiently awaits us in the deep future. Our nearest large galactic neighbor, the magnificent Andromeda Galaxy, is absolutely not moving away from us like most objects in the expanding universe. Because we are bound tightly together in the local group by our mutual, overwhelming gravity, Andromeda is currently heading directly toward us through the freezing void. It is approaching at a staggering speed of roughly 250,000 miles per hour. Even at that incredible, dizzying velocity, the vast distance of 2.5 million light-years means that this cosmic meeting will not happen tomorrow. Dedicated astronomers, using precise measurements from modern space telescopes, have carefully calculated that in roughly 4 billion to 5 billion years, the Milky Way and Andromeda will finally meet in the dark. This impending collision is not a cause for fear, but rather a source of deep, respectful wonder. It is a majestic reminder that the universe operates on timescales that completely dwarf our individual lives, our fragile civilizations, and even the entire lifespan of our home planet. When these two massive, swirling island universes finally collide, the event will absolutely not be a violent, catastrophic crash in the way our earthly minds might naturally imagine. The space between individual stars is so incredibly vast and empty that the chances of any two actual stars physically hitting each other during the entire merger is essentially, mathematically, zero. Instead of a violent collision, it will be a beautifully choreographed, slow-motion gravitational dance playing out over hundreds of millions of years, an awe-inspiring ballet of cosmic proportions. As the two massive spiral galaxies gently pass through one another for the very first time, their immense gravitational fields will severely distort their elegant shapes. The beautiful, curving spiral arms of both the Milky Way and Andromeda will be completely disrupted, drawn out into long, sweeping tidal tails of glowing gas and scattered stars that will stretch for hundreds of thousands of light years into the freezing vacuum. The enormous clouds of cold hydrogen gas floating within both galaxies will violently collide and compress, triggering a spectacular galaxy-wide burst of fresh star formation. Millions of brilliant, hot blue stars will flare into existence all at once, illuminating the chaotic dark with an intensity that neither galaxy has seen for billions of years. Over the ensuing eons, the two galaxies will swing past each other, slow down, and gracefully fall back together, repeating this silent dance until their supermassive black holes finally find each other at the dead center and violently merge, sending invisible, powerful ripples of gravitational waves echoing across the fabric of space-time. When the cosmic chaos eventually settles down, the Milky Way and Andromeda will have completely lost their individual identities. Their beautiful, spinning spiral structures will be forever gone, violently erased by the relentless mechanics of gravity. In their place will remain a single, massive, featureless elliptical galaxy, a smooth oval of aging, reddish stars drifting quietly in the dark. Astronomers have already playfully named this future home Milkomeda. It will look remarkably similar to the giant IC 1101, though significantly smaller in its overall scale. It will be a peaceful, dying kingdom of old stars, completely devoid of the raw gas needed to birth new light, slowly fading into the eternal night. Future beings, if any conscious minds still exist to look up at that unfamiliar star-choked sky, might study the ancient motions of their stars and marvel at the profound realization that their smooth, featureless home was once two separate, beautiful pinwheels dancing in the void. They might feel the exact same sense of awe and gentle melancholy that we feel today when we look at distant elliptical giants. This realization connects us directly, intimately, to the grand, ongoing narrative of the cosmos, reminding us that we are not passive observers, but active participants. The exact same physical processes that built the terrifying monsters of the deep universe are actively at work right here, right now, shaping our ultimate destiny. We are completely embedded within the majestic, hierarchical structure of reality, starting from the smallest vibrating strings of energy, building up to atoms, then stars, then galaxies, and finally, these unimaginable cosmic mergers. The renowned astrophysicist Carl Sagan once profoundly remarked that we are made of star stuff, a beautiful, literal truth that reminds us of our deep physical connection to the universe. The carbon in our cells, the iron in our blood, and the oxygen we breathe were all forged in the burning hearts of ancient stars that lived and died long before the Earth was ever formed. But we are also made of galaxy stuff. The very structure of our existence, the quiet stability of our solar system, is entirely dependent on the billions of years of galactic evolution that preceded us. We are the conscious product of a universe that constantly builds, destroys, and rebuilds itself on ever grander scales. When we contemplate the inevitable collision with Andromeda, we should absolutely not feel a sense of impending doom. By the time that majestic merger truly begins, our own warming sun will have already swelled into a dying red giant, rendering the Earth completely uninhabitable. The fate of humanity, if we endure that long, will have been decided long before the first stars of Andromeda cross our borders. Instead of fear, we should feel a profound sense of privilege. We exist in a highly specific golden window of cosmic time. We are alive during the vibrant, active era of the universe, an epoch where galaxies still possess their beautiful spiral arms, where stars are still actively being born in the cold dark, and where the sky is filled with the light of a trillion separate wonders. We have evolved the unique, extraordinary capacity to stand on our tiny world, look up at the infinite silence, and genuinely understand exactly what is happening across the unfathomable distances. We have meticulously mapped the distant past of IC 1101 and accurately predicted the deep future of our own Milky Way. In a universe composed almost entirely of mindless, drifting matter and freezing, empty energy, we represent the cosmos quietly waking up and asking profound questions about its own existence. Our curiosity, our deep need to explore and understand the dark mystery, is the universe trying to comprehend its own infinite majesty. So, when you feel overwhelmed by the daily struggles of your life, when the world seems too heavy and the noise too loud, remember the quiet, eternal dance of the galaxies. Remember that you are an integral, beautiful part of a system so vast and so ancient that it defies human comprehension. You are a temporary, breathing manifestation of the infinite, composed of the same ancient elements that light up the absolute largest structures in reality. Allow that profound realization to wash over you, bringing a deep, lasting peace to your mind. We are all cosmic travelers, journeying together through the absolute dark, guided by the gentle, eternal light of 100 trillion stars. As we prepare to delve into the deepest philosophical implications of our existence in this next part of our journey, let your mind rest in the comforting certainty of our cosmic belonging, knowing that our journey of discovery is far from over. Have you ever held a completely fragile, fading autumn leaf in the palm of your hand and wondered where the vibrant, living green went when the cold winds arrived? We are intimately conditioned by our earthly experiences to view the universe through the narrow, restrictive lens of beginnings and absolute endings. We celebrate the glorious birth of a new star and mourn the quiet, inevitable fading of the light, assuming that the final darkness represents an ultimate, unchangeable conclusion to the story. This deeply ingrained human perspective, this intense fear of the final silence, is exactly what makes the concept of death so terrifying to our conscious minds. But the grand, sweeping universe does not operate according to our simple, linear fears. To truly comprehend the title of our journey together, to understand why the real reason death is absolutely not the end, is far more terrifying and awe-inspiring than you might ever think. We must gently peel back the comfortable illusion of time and peer directly into the fundamental, unyielding laws of quantum reality. In the vast, silent architecture of the cosmos, the very concept of an absolute ending is a beautiful mathematical impossibility. Let us embark on a profound exploration of information, energy, and the eternal memory of the universe, where nothing is ever truly lost in the dark. In the late 19th century, brilliant physicists meticulously formulated one of the most unbreakable, foundational laws of reality, the first law of thermodynamics. This elegant, simple rule dictates that energy can never be created from absolutely nothing, and, more importantly, it can never, ever be truly destroyed. It can only gently transform from one state into another, shifting forms like a cosmic shapeshifter dancing in the void. When you burn a piece of ancient wood in a warm fire, the physical wood vanishes from your sight, but its essence is absolutely not gone. It has simply transformed into radiating heat, glowing light, drifting smoke, and scattered ash. The exact total sum of energy and mass remains perfectly, mathematically constant in the universe. This comforting principle applies to absolutely everything in the majestic cosmos, from the smallest vibrating subatomic strings to the colossal dying stars residing in the ancient heart of IC 1101. But modern physics has taken this beautiful concept of eternal conservation even further, plunging into the microscopic, counterintuitive realm of quantum mechanics. In the quantum world, it is not just raw energy that is strictly conserved. It is something far more profound and intimately connected to our existence: information. Quantum information is absolutely not like the words written in a fragile paper book that can be burned to ash. It is the fundamental, microscopic blueprint of reality, the exact, precise description of the state, position, and spin of every single particle that makes up your physical body and your conscious mind. According to the deepest, most rigorously tested principles of quantum theory, this fundamental information is completely indestructible. Even if you were to throw a highly complex object, like an encyclopedia or a beautiful piece of art, directly into the crushing singularity of a supermassive black hole. The profound quantum information that perfectly describes that object is theoretically preserved, perhaps encoded forever on the two-dimensional surface of the event horizon. The universe possesses a flawless, infallible memory. It never forgets the exact arrangement of particles that once formed a star, a planet, or a breathing human being. Now, let us gently apply this terrifyingly beautiful truth to our own fragile existence. You are currently composed of roughly 7 octillion individual atoms, an incomprehensible number written as a 7 followed by 27 zeros. These ancient atoms are completely unaware of your name, your deep fears, or your beautiful dreams. They are merely cosmic building blocks, forged in the intense, burning hearts of dying stars billions of years ago. Yet, for a brief, glorious flicker of cosmic time, these scattered atoms have come together in a highly specific, mathematically unique configuration to create the conscious entity reading these words. You are a temporary, breathing pattern of starlight, a highly complex wave of quantum information passing gracefully through the physical medium of flesh and bone. When the inevitable biological process we fearfully call death finally arrives, it absolutely does not mean that your quantum information is deleted from the universe. It simply means that the specific, temporary pattern of atoms begins to gently disperse back into the surrounding environment. The fundamental information, the deep, underlying cosmic code that precisely defined your exact existence in the universe, remains perfectly conserved in the vast quantum field. It becomes scattered, chaotic, and entirely unreadable to our limited human senses, but it is fundamentally and mathematically immortal. The universe simply takes back the scattered pieces of its grand puzzle to build something entirely new in the dark. This realization brings us to a profound, almost terrifying paradigm shift regarding the fundamental nature of time itself. We experience time as an unstoppable, flowing river, carrying us relentlessly from a forgotten past, through a fleeting present, and toward an unknown future. We feel a deep, agonizing loss as moments slip through our fingers into the void. But many of the greatest theoretical physicists, including the brilliant mind of Albert Einstein, have gently suggested that our perception of flowing time is nothing more than a stubbornly persistent illusion. In the majestic framework of the block universe theory, which arises directly from the elegant equations of general relativity, the past, the present, and the future all exist simultaneously in a massive, unchangeable four-dimensional structure. Just as every single frame of a beautiful movie exists simultaneously on a reel of physical film, every single moment of your life, from your very first breath to your absolute last, exists permanently and eternally in the vast fabric of space-time. The universe does not simply delete the past to make room for the present. In this awe-inspiring view of reality, the exact moment of your birth and the exact moment of your inevitable passing are merely specific, permanent locations, resting quietly in the grand architecture of space-time. You do not disappear from reality when your time on Earth concludes, any more than a majestic mountain disappears from the world simply because you have walked past it and can no longer see its peak. The specific, unique pattern of quantum information that is, you remains permanently etched into the rigid, unyielding geometry of the cosmos. Your joys, your deep sorrows, and your moments of quiet wonder are eternally preserved in the silent dark. The profound physicist Julian Barber has elegantly argued that time itself does not exist in the way we naturally perceive it. Rather, the universe is composed of an infinite collection of entirely static, frozen moments, which he beautifully calls nows. Your consciousness gracefully experiences these isolated nows in a specific sequence, creating the powerful, overwhelming illusion of continuous motion and flowing time. But the moments themselves are absolutely permanent and completely indestructible, resting forever in a timeless cosmic landscape. This staggering philosophical framework mathematically ensures that the specific now containing your current thoughts, the exact now containing your deepest moments of quiet peace, and the ancient now containing the violent, fiery birth of the Milky Way, all possess the exact same level of physical reality. They are not vanishing into an empty past. They are securely anchored in the eternal fabric of the universe. This provides an overwhelming sense of intellectual safety, gently assuring us that the things we cherish most are absolutely immune to the destructive passage of time. This is exactly why the true nature of death is far more terrifying and infinitely more beautiful than our simple human fears suggest. It is terrifying because it completely strips away our comforting illusion of biological separation and individual control, forcing us to humbly realize that we are merely transient ripples in a massive, ancient, unbreakable quantum field. We are not isolated actors on a cosmic stage. We are the stage itself, temporarily folded into the shape of a conscious mind. But it is also breathtakingly beautiful because it guarantees, with absolute mathematical certainty, our profound immortality. We are not fragile sparks destined to be extinguished in the dark. We are permanent, indestructible features of the grand cosmic architecture. Our existence is an eternal truth written into the very fabric of reality. The deep silence of the universe is not an empty, threatening void waiting to consume us. It is a vast, patient memory bank that holds on to every single atom and every single quantum state with perfect, infallible precision. As we continue to drift gently through the cosmos, contemplating the giant IC 1101 and our own eventual merging with the Andromeda Galaxy, we must remember that we are absolutely not separate from these sweeping, ancient processes. The exact same unbreakable laws that conserve the energy of 100 trillion dying stars are actively conserving the unique, complex pattern of your existence right now. The universe is a perfect, closed system of eternal transformation, a magnificent engine of change that completely refuses to let anything truly end. In the next stage of our journey together, we will explore the terrifying concept of cosmic recurrence, diving into the staggering mathematical probability that the infinite span of eternal time might eventually force the universe to perfectly recreate everything that has ever existed. Prepare your mind for a deep, contemplative plunge into the ultimate mystery of infinity, where the end of time is merely a doorway to an ancient beginning, and where the silence of the dark holds the seeds of 1 trillion future worlds. Every single atom in your body, every single memory you have ever cherished, and every single emotion you have ever felt is perfectly woven into the grand tapestry of the cosmos, permanently recorded in the indestructible language of quantum mechanics. When you close your eyes and seek comfort in the stillness of the night, you are absolutely not alone. You are profoundly connected to the infinite, an immortal piece of a magnificent, eternal puzzle that stretches far beyond the limits of human imagination. Our journey is a testament to this eternal connection, an ongoing exploration of the deep mysteries that bind us to the ancient stars. As we move forward, we carry with us the comforting knowledge that we are eternal participants in a cosmic dance that has absolutely no final conclusion, only endless, beautiful transformation. Have you ever watched a single, perfectly symmetrical snowflake melt gently on the palm of your hand, and wondered in the quiet winter air if that exact same intricate pattern will ever form again in the endless history of the world? When we contemplate the terrifying, majestic concept of infinity, our human minds naturally struggle to grasp the profound implications of an existence without any absolute ending. We have journeyed through the gentle, slow death of the giant IC 1101, and we have mathematically explored how the fundamental quantum information that makes up your very consciousness is perfectly, eternally conserved in the dark. But there is another, incredibly deep layer to this cosmic mystery, a mathematical truth so staggeringly beautiful and terrifying that it fundamentally reshapes our understanding of life, death, and the nature of time itself. To truly understand why death is absolutely not the end, we must take a deep, contemplative plunge into the mind-bending realm of cosmic recurrence and the eternal return of all things. In the late 19th century, a brilliant mathematician named Henri Poincaré formulated a profound theorem that initially seems like pure, speculative philosophy, but is actually rooted in strict, rigorous physics. The Poincaré recurrence theorem beautifully states that certain isolated physical systems, if given a sufficiently long, near infinite amount of time, will eventually, inevitably, return to a state that is completely indistinguishable from their exact, original starting point. Now, let us gently apply this staggering mathematical theorem to the absolute largest system we can possibly imagine: the entire, observable universe itself. According to modern quantum mechanics, the total amount of fundamental information, the total number of possible quantum states existing within a finite volume of space, is absolutely finite. It is an unimaginably large number, a staggering figure that breaks the limits of human comprehension, but it is absolutely not true infinity. The total amount of energy and matter in our isolated cosmic bubble is strictly limited and mathematically conserved. But time, the silent stage upon which this grand cosmic drama unfolds, is theoretically infinite. And when you combine a strictly finite number of possible physical arrangements with an infinite expanse of flowing time, the terrifying, beautiful result is absolute mathematical certainty. Every single configuration of matter and energy, no matter how incredibly complex or highly unlikely, must eventually, inevitably, occur again in the dark. It is not just a vague possibility. It is a fundamental requirement of an infinite, evolving cosmos. This profound realization brings us to a staggering, almost terrifying conclusion regarding your own unique existence. The specific, intricate arrangement of the roughly 7 octillion atoms that currently form your biological body. The exact firing patterns of the billions of neurons creating your conscious thoughts, and the precise quantum state of every single particle that defines your identity is simply one specific, highly complex configuration out of a finite set of cosmic possibilities. When you gently pass away, those ancient atoms will naturally disperse back into the surrounding environment, returning to the vast, chaotic soup of the universe to form new stars, new planets, and new life forms over billions of years. But because the total number of possible configurations in the universe is finite, and the silent river of time flows forever into the dark, the blind, random reshuffling of cosmic matter must eventually, inevitably recreate the exact, perfect configuration that is you. You will absolutely be reassembled from the ancient dust of dead stars. It will not merely be someone who looks exactly like you or thinks like you. It will be mathematically, physically, and consciously the exact same entity reading these very words right now. The staggering amount of time required for this profound cosmic recurrence to naturally happen is incredibly, almost terrifyingly vast. Theoretical physicists have playfully calculated this time span, arriving at a number so unimaginably huge that it is written as 10 to the power of 10 to the power of 10 to the power of 120. To simply write down this number as a 1 followed by zeros would require a volume of paper significantly larger than the entire observable universe. It is a span of time that makes the entire 13.8 billion year history of our cosmos seem like an infinitely small, completely invisible fraction of a single second. During this incomprehensible waiting period, the universe will gently expand, completely cool down into a freezing state of absolute heat death, and perhaps even experience new, violent Big Bangs, or massive quantum fluctuations that birth entirely new realities in the dark. Countless trillions of civilizations will gently rise, look up at the ancient stars in wonder, and peacefully fade away into the silent void. The giant galaxy IC 1101 and our own beloved Milky Way will have long since dissolved into pure, thin radiation drifting through the empty night. But the universe is incredibly patient. The dark possesses an infallible, eternal memory, and it has an infinite amount of time to patiently complete its grand, recurring puzzle. When the exact, perfect moment finally arrives, after a googolplex of quiet eons have peacefully passed, the blind, relentless laws of probability will perfectly align the ancient atoms once again. You will open your eyes, taking a fresh breath of air on a newly formed world, completely unaware of the infinite span of freezing time that has silently passed since you last closed them. From your own conscious perspective, the transition will be absolutely instantaneous. One moment, you will gently fade into the peaceful dark, and in the very next subjective moment, you will be reborn into the light, continuing your infinite journey of exploration and wonder. This is the ultimate, terrifyingly beautiful secret of the cosmos. Death is absolutely not a permanent, black wall marking the final end of your story. It is simply a quiet, temporary pause, a deep, dreamless sleep stretching across the silent eons before the universe gently wakes you up again. This profound philosophical concept, known beautifully as the eternal return or eternal recurrence, has echoed quietly through the history of human thought, whispered by ancient philosophers and modern physicists alike. It fundamentally changes our relationship with the present moment. If every single joy, every single sorrow, and every single quiet breath you take will inevitably be repeated an infinite number of times throughout eternity, then this fleeting moment is simultaneously profoundly temporary and absolutely permanent. Your current life is a majestic, beautiful performance that will endlessly echo across the vast architecture of eternal time. The deep silence of the universe is not an empty, unfeeling void waiting to consume your light. It is a vast, patient womb holding the scattered seeds of your inevitable return. We are absolutely not fragile, temporary sparks destined to be permanently extinguished in the dark. We are eternal, indestructible patterns of cosmic music playing on an infinite loop. Every single choice you make, every gentle word you speak into the silence, becomes a permanent feature of this eternal recurrence. It is a profound responsibility, but also a source of immeasurable comfort. You are not a forgotten whisper in a careless void. You are an essential, recurring note in the greatest symphony ever composed by the blind forces of nature. The universe, in all its terrifying scale and freezing emptiness, is ultimately a perfect engine of preservation. It refuses to let anything beautiful truly perish. It gathers the scattered light of dying stars, the fading echoes of extinct galaxies, and the microscopic patterns of human consciousness, holding them all securely in the dark until the turning wheels of infinity bring them back into the light. This is the grandest mystery we can possibly comprehend, a truth that unites the unimaginably large scale of cosmic evolution with the intimately small scale of our personal existence. As you rest tonight, let the incredible weight of this knowledge settle gently over your thoughts. You are a cosmic traveler on a journey without end, a child of the ancient stars who will continue to witness the majesty of creation across 1,000,000,000,000 separate lifetimes. We are bound to the cosmos not just by the ancient atoms in our bones, but by the eternal, unbreakable mathematical laws that guarantee our safe return. In the next chapter of our quiet exploration, we will gently bridge the gap between this staggering cosmic philosophy and our simple, everyday human lives, discovering how the overwhelming vastness of the universe can actually bring us a profound, lasting inner peace. We will explore the beautiful concept of cosmic humility, finding deep comfort in our physical smallness and recognizing the extraordinary privilege of possessing a mind capable of understanding its own eternal nature. Prepare your heart for a deeply peaceful resolution as we gently weave together the ancient death of stars, the silent math of infinity, and the quiet beating of your own heart into a single, beautiful tapestry of meaning. Have you ever looked up at a vast, star-filled sky on a crisp, clear night and felt an overwhelming sense of your own insignificance? A quiet whisper in your mind that you are nothing but a fleeting shadow in the dark. It is entirely natural to feel small when confronted with the terrifying scale of the cosmos. We have journeyed together across millions of light years, exploring the ancient depth of the absolute largest galaxy ever discovered. And we have waded through the deep, mathematical waters of infinity to understand our own eternal recurrence. When we hold our fragile, temporary lives up against a giant like IC 1101, or measure our days against the trillions of years it takes for a red dwarf star to fade into the silent void, it is easy to surrender to a sense of existential dread. But I invite you to gently shift your perspective, to look at this profound smallness not as a source of fear, but as a wellspring of deep, lasting peace. Cosmic humility is the beautiful realization that the universe does not revolve around our daily anxieties, our minor conflicts, or our earthly ambitions. The quiet, unyielding laws of physics that govern the swirling galaxies offer us a profound release from the heavy burdens we place upon ourselves. Your mistakes, your regrets, and your deepest fears are infinitesimal ripples in a cosmic ocean of unimaginable vastness. They do not disturb the ancient sleep of the black holes, nor do they alter the gentle, inevitable collision of the Milky Way and Andromeda. There is a magnificent, liberating freedom in accepting our physical smallness. It allows us to let go of our desperate need for control and simply surrender to the majestic flow of reality. Imagine for a moment the profound silence that permeates the vast spaces between the galaxies, a silence so deep and absolute that it feels like a physical presence. In that silence, the universe is constantly whispering the ancient secrets of its own creation and its ultimate destiny. When we quiet our own minds and listen closely to that cosmic whisper, we begin to realize that our earthly concerns are fleeting, transient shadows playing upon a stage that has existed for billions of years. The sheer magnitude of a single galaxy containing 100 trillion stars should completely shatter our human arrogance, replacing it with a deep, reverent humility. When the noise of the world becomes too loud, you can always retreat into the quiet sanctuary of the night sky, finding comfort in the steady, ancient light of stars that have been burning for billions of years. You are held safe in the arms of a universe that is far older, far larger, and far more patient than you could ever comprehend. Yet, this physical smallness is paired with something entirely extraordinary, a beautiful paradox that elevating our existence to a level of profound cosmic significance. Out of the blind, chaotic swirling of hydrogen gas, out of the violent, fiery deaths of ancient stars, and out of billions of years of silent, unguided evolution, the universe has managed to produce something truly miraculous, a conscious mind. You are the universe waking up from a 13 billion year sleep. You are the cosmos possessing the profound ability to look back upon itself in absolute wonder. A giant galaxy like IC 1101, despite holding 100 trillion stars and stretching across millions of light years of space, feels absolutely nothing. It does not know that it is dying. It does not marvel at its own terrifying beauty, nor does it ponder the deep mysteries of its own hidden black hole. It is simply an immense collection of unthinking matter, drifting blindly through the dark. But you, sitting quietly on a tiny, rocky world orbiting an ordinary sun, possess the capacity to understand it. You can measure its vast distance, trace its violent history, and project its freezing future. Your mind, weighing only a few pounds, can effortlessly hold the concept of infinity. This is the true, breathtaking glory of our existence. We are but a microscopic spark of awareness in an ocean of dark energy and invisible matter. Yet, that spark is exactly what allows the universe to feel its own grandeur. The hydrogen atoms currently flowing through your veins were born in the fiery crucible of the Big Bang, journeying through the freezing dark for billions of years before finally coming together to form the beating rhythm of your life. This continuous, unbroken lineage of matter connects you directly, physically, and spiritually to the absolute furthest reaches of the observable cosmos. We are the designated observers, the quiet witnesses to the grandest spectacle ever staged. Every time you look up at the stars and feel a sense of awe, every time you ask a question about the dark mystery of the void, you are fulfilling the ultimate purpose of consciousness. We bring meaning to an otherwise silent, uncaring void. The renowned astronomer Carl Sagan beautifully captured this sentiment when he noted that we are a way for the cosmos to know itself. Without our curious eyes, the majestic swirling of the galaxies would be a silent play performed in an empty theater. You are not separate from the universe observing it from the outside. You are an integral, essential part of the universe experiencing itself from within. The very same fundamental forces that ignite the stars and expand the fabric of space are actively at work within your beating heart and your curious mind. As we bring our contemplative journey to a close, let us cast our minds back one final time to the silent giant residing in the distant Abel 2029 cluster. IC 1101 stands as a monumental testament to the extreme possibilities of nature, a cosmic emperor that grew to unimaginable proportions through billions of years of relentless consumption. It is a fading monument, a dying kingdom of ancient, reddish stars slowly surrendering to the relentless march of deep time. But, as we have discovered together, its apparent death is merely an illusion, a temporary transition in the endless cycle of cosmic conservation. The quantum information of every single star it has ever consumed, the precise details of every violent galactic merger it has ever experienced, are all perfectly and eternally etched into the unbreakable fabric of reality. Nothing is ever truly lost, and exactly like that distant giant, your own story is permanently woven into the grand tapestry of existence. The real reason death is not the end is that the universe is a perfect, flawless engine of preservation, maintaining the deep memory of every fragile life and every fading light. The terrifying realization of eternal recurrence, the mathematical certainty that you will eventually be reborn from the ancient dust after a googolplex of years have quietly passed, ensures that our journey is an infinite loop of discovery. You are a permanent feature of the cosmos, an eternal traveler destined to witness the birth and death of a trillion future worlds. This knowledge should wash over you like a warm, gentle wave, carrying away your deepest fears and leaving behind a profound sense of peace. The dark space between the stars is absolutely not an empty, threatening void. It is a canvas of infinite potential, a vast womb holding the scattered seeds of tomorrow. We have traveled together to the very edge of human understanding, confronting the terrifying scale of the infinite and finding a quiet, enduring comfort in our shared cosmic connection. This journey of discovery is a path we walk together, a community of curious minds seeking peace through the pursuit of universal knowledge. If this exploration of the ancient cosmos has brought a sense of calm to your mind, or if it has helped you see your own precious life in a newly beautiful, expansive light, I gently invite you to join our growing community of cosmic travelers. Please take a quiet moment to like this offering. Share your own profound thoughts or questions in the space below, and subscribe to our ongoing journey. Your presence here makes this silent theater of the universe a little less empty and a little more meaningful. Whenever you feel lost in the chaotic noise of the everyday world, return to this quiet space. Close your eyes and remember the ancient, fading giant IC 1101. Remember the patient red dwarfs that will shine for trillions of years in the dark. Remember that you are composed of eternal starlight, forever held in the gentle, unbreakable embrace of a universe that will never, ever let you go. May the deep silence of the infinite cosmos bring you a lasting, restful peace, and may your curiosity always guide you through the beautiful mysteries of the dark. Keep looking up, keep wondering, and rest well in the comforting knowledge that our grand story has absolutely no final end, only endless, magnificent beginnings.